Hello there, beautiful. How are you doing today? Now, I love Bayonetta. I love Bayonetta an unhealthy amount, to the point where I will buy statues that look like this. So, between the ending of Bayonetta 3 and seeing the trailer for Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, I was pretty perplexed, having seen quite how different this game is in tone from its origin point, and having Bayonetta 3 leave a bit of a sour taste in my mouth after the ending of it. I wasn't sure what to expect from this game. So when Nintendo offered me a copy of the game to present a review for you guys, I was very keen to take it on so that I could see just how I felt about Cereza and the Lost Demon. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the game and whether it might be for you, or me for that matter, stay tuned and keep on watching. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Bayonetta,
You want to touch me? Come on.
Cereza and the Lost Demon takes the control of the younger version of the titular character, who's always known for her wisecracking, tongue-in-cheek, over-sexualized behavior, and her pet stuffed toy, Cheshire, who also happens to be a demon as she learns to become a witch and take control of her power so that she can free her incarcerated mother, Rosa. So those of you who have played Bayonetta before will know where a lot of these origin stories come from. But given that this is the same character that turns around and she's like,
Don't fuck with a witch.
to see her presented in such a childlike environment and bizarrely twee game was kind of jarring, to be honest. And when you're taking on an Alice in Wonderland, which I'm very, very here for, by the way, I'm actually obsessed with all things Alice in Wonderland, but to see it be quite such a departure from the origin point, I was just kept coming back to this over and over again. I'm like, where does this fit in with Bayonetta? Now, I will say that with the audio and the visual presentation of this game, stunning. Beautiful use of colour palettes, stained glass style aesthetics, Celtic imagery, the Alice in Wonderland feel that permeates the entire game with the storybook narration and just the way that it's presented. It's all beautiful and stunning. And the gameplay is very evocative of early Legend of Zelda games. You progress with Cereza and Cheshire, who you control individually or together, whether you take the form of a stuffed toy or the demon form of Cheshire, and you control each of them with one side of your controller. So if you're using Joy-Cons, you'll use your left controller for Cereza, your right one for Cheshire. And it does work very well. We've seen games like It Takes Two take that kind of an approach, and to have that for an individual player, though there's no reason why you can't give the second controller to a friend to control one character and you control the other, was really cool. And you learn and evolve new abilities as you progress through the world, with Cereza and Cheshire learning elemental abilities through elemental cores that you destroy as part of the story. And you're using those abilities in puzzles and in combat. Now, while I really enjoyed this, I did find that in the latter half of my 12-hour playthrough of the game, I found that I was using a lot of the same things very frequently, and that combat wasn't really mixing up very much. Cereza in particular, I found I just wasn't doing an awful lot with Cereza, because her main focus is to hold enemies in place while Cheshire attacks them. There's not a huge amount of variety in the ways in which you tackle enemies, which is very strange coming from Bayonetta, where it's all high-octane action, loads of weapons, switching weapons on the fly. So for it to go from 10 down to like a 4 in terms of intensity was very, very strange. Now, the story for Bayonetta, much like the combat, much more simplified than you'd expect in a Bayonetta game. Basically, it's just telling you the story of how Cereza became Bayonetta, essentially, by learning all of her Umbra Witch powers through the forest, and you get introduced to her mentor Morgana. You get little glimpses and references that are like tied to the greater franchise, like Jean will pop up at the start. Cheshire is obviously very heavily ingrained with Bayonetta 3. There's a lot of ties to Bayonetta 3 in particular, with the fairies' origin being sort of more nuanced here than it was alluded to in Bayonetta 3. But you don't have to have played any of the Bayonetta games to enjoy Cereza and the Lost Demon. As an individual experience, I really enjoyed my time with Cereza and the Lost Demon. The narration is wonderful. The boss fights, as much as like the combat is a bit more simple, you still get little hints of Bayonetta later on with some of the bombastic ways in which you defeat bosses. The puzzle like solving was really strong as well. But I did feel like it didn't need to be a Bayonetta title, really. Like, the story does try and tie things together as you go forward, but I just couldn't help but keep going back in my mind and going, who was asking for this game? Like, if you're a massive fan of Bayonetta, seeing child Cereza with a coming-of-age story where everything's really cute and twee is not really what I signed up for as a Bayonetta fan. I want heels, I want guns everywhere, I want wisecracking one-liners.
As long as there's music, I'll keep on dancing.
I want just absolute camp realness when it comes to Bayonetta. Cereza and the Lost Demon delivers it in a really different way, as if it's aimed at children, so it's strange to just see quite how disparate the experiences are. So if you're a big fan of Bayonetta like I am, you probably would enjoy Cereza and the Lost Demon, but just don't go into it expecting the same thing that you would from a different Bayonetta game. Quick shout out, of course, for my lovely followers over on Patreon. I do always do a shout out every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Sad Panda, who has a character from one of my other favourite Nintendo games, Chrono Trigger, as their title card. So if you guys would like a title card as well as a plethora of other benefits, perhaps you would like to consider joining up on the Patreon in the link in the description box below. Outside of that criticism, which realistically is down to me being a massive Bayonetta fanboy, I would say that my biggest issue with Cereza and the Lost Demon is repetition. Like, as you go through the game, certainly in the latter half, you do find that you're doing a lot of the same things quite frequently. Certain things like Cereza dancing in front of flowers to bloom them to make platforms, and sort of blooming the Tiana Norgs at the end of each of those dungeons so that you're able to destroy the crystals there. You're doing like a QTE style mini game of sort of pressing buttons in time with an icon that revolves around. You do that an awful lot, and it starts to get a little bit grating over the course of time, but I don't feel that this game outstays its welcome to any egregious level. I enjoyed my time with it. I would probably go back and play it again in the future, certainly in the light of sort of future Bayonetta titles and seeing how this kind of incorporates, or maybe it will go off on its own tangent and more Bayonetta Origin games will come around. Who knows? So overall, I really enjoyed the visuals, the music is fantastic, the way the camera work is done is really good, the combat is really sort of easy to pick up. I just thought that it was a little bit repetitious towards the end. I'm sorry, Bayonetta. I would never throw shade at you if I didn't mean it. I'm really sorry. There's lovely game here, but I need more of this. So would I recommend Cereza and the Lost Demon to you? I mean, yes. I can't say it's a bad game, because it isn't one. It's actually really good in a lot of ways. Like I said, visuals, great. Audio, great. Storytelling, really great. Combat, lovely for the most part. Exploration, lovely. It just doesn't feel like Bayonetta to me. But if you've never played a Bayonetta game before, fabulous game. Absolutely. Go out and buy it tomorrow. If you have played Bayonetta, I don't know whether I think that this game is for you or not, because I still enjoyed it. I just didn't feel like it was aimed at me as a Bayonetta fan. So that's going to be all from me today. Thank you all so much for coming along and watching today, and thank you to Nintendo as well once again for gifting a copy of the game so that I could bring this review to everybody. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Cereza and the Lost Demon if you've played it already. Let me know what you think about the whole Bayonetta franchise. Where do you think things are going from here? Just be careful of spoilers, because I'm sure there will be people in the chat that haven't played it as of yet.
Don't fuck with a witch.
Thank you once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. And I will see you next time, beautiful. Hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Take care.